Hey everybody, welcome to Idaho Dispatch. My name is Greg Pruitt and it is September 10th, 2020. And I wanted to jump on just for a few minutes and talk about a story that we released last night that discusses a state employee up in Moscow who was fired from a liquor store, an Idaho state liquor store, for a mask that she was wearing. And I wanted to address a couple issues with this story and kind of give you some more details now that we've found out a little bit more from the employee handbook what is and is not allowed, at least what they've given us so far. And we've actually asked some follow-up questions with I believe it said the director of, let me double check his title here. Jeff Anderson, who it says is the director of the Idaho State Liquor Division. Okay, and we asked him some more specific questions about what they had sent us. So first of all, some of it, I know there was a couple comments and people said, why is this news and who cares? And you guys have to remember, with the Idaho Dispatch, our goal is to cover political stories that are happening in the state of Idaho. And part of the frustration and why we started Idaho Dispatch is because too often the mainstream media would ignore issues that conservatives felt were very important. And that was always frustrating to a lot of conservatives. Or they would run stories about conservatives but then never even bothered trying to get conservatives to respond to what was being said. And so we thought, man, if we're going to do the news the right way, if we're going to cover stories the right way, we want to cover stories, political stories that are happening, that are important to both sides, and get people to react and to understand what is happening on a particular issue. With this gal on the mask issue, one of the original reasons we actually wanted to discuss the story was because of something she said about Governor Little that we thought was kind of important, and some people on Twitter were interpreting what she said about Governor Little as a potential threat, potentially physical threat. And so that was one of the reasons we wanted to say, hey, this is what somebody is saying, and let's reach out to her and find out why she said this. Because she said in her initial tweet, I've officially been fired from the liquor store for wearing my Black Lives Matter mask. Brad Little thinks Black Lives Matter is political, and he's on that. And he's on the side that they don't. Okay? And then she says, I'm about to make his life hell. Well, we thought, okay, here's a state employee who just got fired because of a mask that she was wearing, a BLM mask, and now she said she's going to make the governor's life hell. That seems kind of like something we should cover, right? And so that was one of the big reasons that we were doing it. The mask controversy has also been ongoing across the state of Idaho. Some people don't believe that there should be mask mandates. Some people believe that there should be. And, some people would argue that had there not even been a mask mandate in place and this young lady didn't have to wear a mask, she never would have been fired in the first place because she wouldn't have had a BLM mask on. And so there was a variety of reasons we felt like, hey, this is a story that was going big on Twitter and it was getting shared all over Twitter. Let's talk to this gal and see what her side of the story is, and then reach out to the state and figure out, exactly what was happening. And so my goal, despite whatever my personal and political beliefs are, was to say this was a story that was important to people of a more liberal-leaning narrative, and we'll cover the story and find out what's going on, and then let you guys decide, did she deserve to get fired? Maybe she did deserve to get fired, but maybe it was too harsh, or whatever your political thoughts are on that issue. And so that's why we covered it the way that we did. Okay, and so I think it's an interesting story, and she cleared up, at least in her words, what she felt about Governor Little, and that she wasn't intending to actually do anything. She at least told us that she was just venting and was frustrated that she didn't feel her mask was political, and therefore didn't warrant getting fired. So now we did get the dress code for the Idaho State Liquor Division. And I'll note right away that it does not specifically cover masks, right? I mean, I don't think anybody has a dress code that has covered masks. Now, I did ask the director for the Idaho State Liquor Division, did you guys put out any guidelines, right? Okay, it's probably not going to be in your employee handbook because it was probably written up long before the whole mask issue came into play. Did you guys send out an email? Was there some sort of guideline where you told people you need to wear a mask at work, but it can't have any messaging on it, or it can only do this or it can only do that, or just you need to wear a plain mask? Did you put out any guidance at all on what could or could not be worn on a mask for your employees? And so that I think still has to be answered. But here is what the dress code specifically says. Let's see. Let me find the part that I wanted there. So I want to make sure. It says work attire. So this is in subsection H. Work attire and personal appearance standards. Okay. And the part we're looking at is in part G. So this is subsection H and then subsection G. It says ISDL management reserves the right to assess the appropriateness of an employee's appearance and may request an employee to leave work and not to return until their appearance is in compliance with this policy. So based on that policy, it seems like they have pretty broad, a very broad ability to just say, look, we don't like the way you look right now, based on something on your clothes or on your face, or you just got a tattoo and you need to go cover it up or whatever. It just says we reserve the right to assess the appropriateness of your appearance and may, ask you to leave and not come back until it's fixed. So in the case of this gal, Paige Tilley, she was asked, she had wore one mask to work on a previous day that said white silence is violence. And I believe the same customer, at least according to her, the same customer who complained about this new mask that she wore also complained about the other one. And so she put on this other mask, and the same customer complained, and ultimately, at least according to her, they fired her for wearing this new mask. And in the policy, it seems to say that. Now, it also has an additional section called Retail Division that says management reserves the right to assess the appropriateness of an employee's appearance and may request an employee to leave work and return when their appearance is in compliance with this policy. Okay, so basically they took that one paragraph and also stuck it specifically in the Retail Division, which is where the liquor stores would fall under, is the Retail Division. So we work with an attorney, the same attorney who helped us kind of get the Idaho Dispatch, all the legal documents set up. And we kind of asked him I asked him some questions back and forth, and he actually sent me a message this morning, just a little bit ago. And he said, I read your article this morning. If it happened the way she said it did, and there is no clear policy, she might actually have a case. Okay? And so I asked, because I knew you guys would want to know specifically, but would that negate the at-will employment for Idaho? He said, it's not exactly at-will for state employees because government can't discriminate based on content of speech. They could ban anything with text, but can't pick and choose. And likely can't just ban political, he put that in quotes, because then they are subjectively deciding what is political. Okay, so this is coming from an attorney that we work with who had read our article, read the case, and said she may potentially have a case against the state based on what happened if there is not some sort of subjective policy that was put out en masse, right? And the other thing I did ask the state's director for the Idaho State Liquor Division was, would it be typical, and I can't necessarily name her, and I didn't name her in the email. I said, would it be typical if someone wore a mask, was warned about that mask, and then wore a different one, and came into the store wearing that, for her to just be fired, right? Would that be typical procedure for state government? So I used to work as a federal employee on Gowan Field with the Idaho Army National Guard, and as you guys know, anytime you work with the government, they typically have greater protections within their own agencies on these employees. And this was another reason I thought that this was kind of a fascinating or an interesting story, was because, well, they canned her, and that's generally not how a state employee gets fired, right? Usually it's the only time they'll take swift action like that is on, somebody was doing some sort of drugs. Even though I was a federal employee and knew people who were charged with drug offenses that still kept their jobs, okay? Drug offenses or some sort of violent crime or something like that is typically when you would see swift action from a state agency or a federal agency on letting somebody go, firing them. And in this particular case, that didn't happen. She was definitely warned, and they seem to have a policy that says they reserve the right to basically tell you to go home until you get it corrected. Well, in this particular case, at least according to her, they just fired her on the second time and didn't give her a chance to go home and change her attire. At least, again, according to her side. Okay, so I sent him the other policy saying that they reserve the right to do this. He said they still can't engage in viewpoint-based discrimination, though. And so basically what our attorney is saying is they have to have laid out some sort of policy specifically stating that mass with any type of messaging is prohibited, right? And that would have to be on there, at least according to him. And so I said, let's see. I said, so you couldn't wear a Trump 2020 mask to work, right? And he said, I think that would be electioneering for a party or candidate while on the job, which is always prohibited. And I said, okay, so what about stop abortion, right? What if you just had a mask that said stop abortion? And he said, and it's an objective standard rather than, so he's talking actually about the Trump one. So the one specifically to the abortion question was, absent a content neutral based policy banning anything with text, probably allowable. Okay, so he said in theory that would be allowable, again, unless the state division had some sort of specific policy on messaging on shirts or pants or masks or whatever. And he said, again, they likely can't decide what is and what isn't political, even though to us that would be a political message, right? And so while I think what he's trying to say is most people are going to look at that mask and say that is a political message, there would have to be some sort of standard based on what they are going to say is and is not allowed. So all of that to say, we're still asking more questions. We still think it's an interesting policy. I wouldn't be surprised at some point, potentially, if somebody came out with a Trump or some other sort of conservative message just to test the waters to see what would happen. And so, anyway, I think it was an interesting story. Now, let me jump over to the questions here. Let's see. Somebody's got a couple of you have a question about one of the polls that we did. So we did a poll about, would you vote for President Trump? Would you vote for Joe Biden or a third-party candidate? So somebody said, why does your latest poll have other instead of Jorgensen and Cohen? Well, the main reason that we put third-party candidate is because there are probably 10 other presidential third-party candidates. There's the Green Party and Libertarian Party, and there's the Constitution Party. There's the America First Party, I believe. And so we didn't want to put a poll together with 20 different parties. We said, here are the two main parties, and then is it a third-party candidate? Okay, so that is why we did that poll that way. It wasn't anything designed to do anything against Jill Jorgensen or anything like that. It was literally, well, to be fair to all the candidates that are third party, let's just say a third party candidate, right? So I would imagine most of the people voting for that are probably voting for Jorgensen, but that's why we did it that way. So maybe in the future we'll do a different poll, right? And the Libertarian Party is the biggest third party, certainly in the United States, but again, that wasn't anything specific to her. It was just, here are the two big main parties, and here's a column for third-party candidates. Most media outlets wouldn't even put her on there. They'd say you're going to vote for Trump or Biden. Okay, we at least put a third-party option on there for you guys. Let's see. And more people wanting to talk about the poll. Okay, we're here to talk about the mask issue. Let's see. So somebody said it's simple. Masks are mandated just as shirts, so it's considered attire. It had content that was controversial in nature and could cost the business customers. She was warned, and now she's F word. Okay, I'm not going to say that word online there, but that is why that is, and that may be right. So again, that's something we're still looking into and trying to figure out, and hopefully we'll get some more answers and get some clarification from the state on whether or not they have any additional requirements that they put in there. Did you may have any other questions about the mask issue in particular? I'm not seeing anything on here. All right, Jimmy, you're all upset about Jill Jorgensen name not being named on a Facebook poll. Let's tell you. Again, we put third-party candidate on there. Jimmy, I guess here's my question to you, Jimmy, since you seem to be so upset about this, and for no reason, quite honestly. Thank you. Somebody said stick to the topic. That's not really a topic, but since we're on here, real quick, Jimmy, should all third-party candidates be named on all future polls that we do? Should every single candidate for president be named on there or not? And by the way, Jimmy, just so you know, we already intend to actually try and interview Miss Jorgensen when she comes into town next week. Next week she is coming to town. Okay? Next week she is coming to town. And we're actually going to go and at least try to cover her event. And if we can, try to ask her a couple questions. Okay? So we do our best to cover everything that we can for each candidate. So, Jimmy, again, my question to you, I'll wait for you to answer. Should, on every poll that we do now, from now until election, should we put every single third-party candidate and try to get emojis for each one on our poll? Right? Because you want Jill Jorgensen on there, and then the Constitution Party people are going to come to me and say, what about the Constitution Party people? And then the Green Party people are going to come to me and say, what about our candidate? And then the America First Party people are going to come to me and say, what about our candidate? And then there will be about 50 independent people who are also running for president who are also going to come to me and say, well, what about our candidate, right? So should every single candidate be listed on there? I wish there was an easy way to do that, because I'd probably do it. There's not an easy way to do that. It would take me probably 5 hours to make a meme that doesn't really mean anything in the scientific poll or not. Okay, so Jimmy says, no, only include those that have the capacity of getting the 270. That's 4 candidates, not 100 like you say. Well, Jimmy, some people would argue that Jill Jorgensen has no chance of winning the presidency, right? It's either going to be Donald Trump or Joe Biden. So some people would say, why are you even putting third-party options on there? Because Jill Jorgensen is never going to win the presidency. The Libertarian Party is not going to win the presidency, despite her being, I believe she's on the ballot in all 50 states. Okay? Most people are going to say it's not going to be her no matter how much you want it to be her. Right? So why should I put her on there or a third-party option on there at all, given those circumstances and what most people would say? So you want me to discriminate against other third-party candidates because you believe she has a chance of winning, right? I mean, so if we're being objective here, I mean, that's not fair to all of those candidates. Because in theory, some of those candidates on the ballots, maybe not in all states, but in some states, could prevent Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton from getting on the ballot. So anyway, that's way off topic, guys. Failed. Okay. There's no helping Jimmy, so that's all right. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of the mask issue. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jeremy. Anyway, let us know what you think on the mask issue. You know, was it a justified firing? Was it not? I guess here's a question for you. Even if Idaho is an at-will work state, do you believe firing her was the right path? Or should they have said, okay, look, you wore another mask, just stop wearing these masks, or somebody's going to take action against you? Let us know what you think. Maybe you disagree very strongly with the mask that she was wearing, but maybe you think the employer went too far. Or, hey, she was worn once, she got what she deserved. You know, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Take care, guys. I appreciate all your support. Be sure to go to idahodispatch.com. We did get the newsletter signed up. A lot of people were asking for a newsletter just in case something happens on social media. Once a week, we'll send out an email with all of the stories that we have. And then go to idahodispatch.com/donate, and you guys can become a monthly supporter to help us continue to grow. Take care. God bless. God bless you, Jimmy. I appreciate your feedback. We'll talk to you guys soon.